people think estate planning is for wealthy people. Unfortunately, as coming back to the word that we used earlier, generational mentality.
Yes.
We don't talk about these things, and I've even heard some people say, well, my kids can figure it out.
Welcome to the Shan and Tam Show.
Hello again, fam. So we are back. We wanted to continue this very important conversation with Alvin Cardoza, licensed mutual fund representative and insurance agent. He has been talking to us on the very important topic of financial literacy and has been providing us with some good information for us to really consider about what our financial plan can be, what are some of the things we need to be talking about as a community, as individuals in our homes. And so we're going to pick up the conversation today to get some more valuable information from Alvin. Let's get into it. So there is a big word that comes up often when you're talking about money, and I have to admit, when I was a little bit younger, I thought this word meant you had to have money in order to be able to use it, which is investment.
Yes.
Talk to us a little bit about that and what that can mean for the ordinary person. What advice would you give to someone who would even think that I can't afford to invest?
Number one is you got to start, like I kind of mentioned earlier, start somewhere. Okay. As I said, my first investment was a $25 a month investment account.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It wasn't making this big dent in my life, but as I said, it was the habit and learning, like watching the market go up and down and seeing how it affected my money. But also doing research, studying, understanding it, because we can all invest, right? But there's also so many different ways to invest.
Mm-hmm,
I know some people, like you go on YouTube, I know you guys have your YouTube channel, you have Instagram, social media now. It's like, no, this is the only way. Like every time I go on YouTube now, it's like somebody's advertising some way to get to invest money, right? Mm-hmm. And saying that, they talk bad about all the other ways. But to me, any way that builds your money is good enough.
Okay.
Right? Because at least you're seeing something happen to your money. Right? Now, are there riskier ways and less riskier ways? Of course, but we have to learn. We have to, go out and seek the information, get our feet wet, but get the knowledge so that we are learning the right ways to do it based on what we're trying to accomplish. Now, maybe some people are investing to buy a house. Maybe some people are investing for retirement. Maybe some people are investing for their kids' education. Well, all those different strategies have different approaches. Mm-hmm. So there's not a one size shoe fits all type of mentality with investing, because you can make a lot of money, you can also lose a lot of money.
Yes.
Right? So just understanding the basics of investing as you're starting to play around in the market.
Another important topic that we would like you to touch on is estate planning. Mm-hmm. It's such a daunting topic for a lot of people and I think it's a cultural thing as well. When you talk about estate planning, people think you're planning for death, right? Mm-hmm. But it is necessary. What would you say to the viewers about the importance of estate planning with financial independence for your family or for yourself?
So there's lots I could talk about with that one.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
We all know, either directly or indirectly, we know somebody who has passed away and left behind a broken apart family. Mm-hmm. Right? Because kind of what we talked about today, not talking about money, and unfortunately, as coming back to the word that we used earlier, generational mentality.
Yes.
We don't talk about these things, and I've even heard some people say, well, my kids can figure it out. Right? But people think estate planning is for wealthy people. They think that they have to have money to have an estate plan. But estate planning is everything, right? Estate planning is, unfortunately, I had my grandmother passed away last year, but she had an estate plan, right? So she had a will put in place. She had, her power of attorney. She had her health care if she if she's unable to make decisions because of health reasons, what to do at that point, who's going to make decisions, who's going to pay the bills, and so on and so on. These are things that we need to think about. And then when we eventually do pass away, what happens to everything that we've worked so hard to build?
Right.
We talk about it in our classes that, if you don't have a plan, the government has one for you, and you may not like it, right? So, no disrespect to Uncle Justin Trudeau, but I want my money to go to my family and not to him, So if I can avoid, I've already paid a lot of taxes in my life, so if I can avoid giving more, I'd rather give it to my family, and worst case scenario, donate it to a charity or something. But estate planning also includes, something as simple as what happens to all the tangible things that I have, like the furniture, the cars. I see people with wills that say, split my stuff evenly this many ways, but you can only split a car in one way, right? And give it to one person, right?
Yeah.
So things like that. But unfortunately, as you mentioned earlier, with the cultural mindset of estate planning, as soon as you start talking about after I pass away, people think that I'm going to pass away tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right? And not realizing that you're just preparing. I'm 35, okay?
Yeah.
I've had an estate plan since before my 30s, okay? I don't have kids, I'm not married yet, but why is it that I have it? Because I got parents, right? These days, death has no age, right? So I got parents, I got siblings, and if something happens, I don't want them to have to try to run around trying to figure out what to do.
Yes.
Right? I want them to have the peace of mind and stay together versus fighting over whatever I left behind. Okay. So to me, that's what estate planning means. It's instructions on what to do when I am no longer here.
It's not just about the money. It's
No.
Other things.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I'm really big on personally, and I believe is the foundation of a good effort to make yourself financially independent, is budgeting.
Yes.
Right. And I've tried several things over the years myself personally, and now I think I found a solution that works for me and that has been working for me and my family for the number of years. But could you talk to us a little bit about budgeting and how important that is?
So if I could start off this way, budgeting is basically telling your money what to do.
Right.
Giving a job or responsibility to every dollar. Because if there's no responsibility, just like, if you don't have a meal plan, you eat whenever you feel hungry, right? Sometimes that doesn't work out in our favor, right?
Absolutely.
So when it comes to our money, it's not an easy thing. It takes, me personally, just to give some examples of what I've had to go through. Money would come in and it would go out, right? It would just, because it was there.
Yeah.
Right. And we feel like we have this, we're invincible and money's always going to be there. And it'll always work itself out. So I've felt the pain of that and of those decisions sometimes. I've tried, just like yourself, Tam, that I've tried many different ways to budget, and a lot of times it didn't work. Right. But budgeting is, part one is habits. Okay. And just like many things, you have to have meetings with yourself to make sure you're staying on track, right? In the beginning, I started it, I set it and forget it, and I hope that it was gonna stick. But now, I usually, if not every day, at least once a week, I personally use an app because I don't like paper, and I lose all those sheets and those jars that, sometimes people use jars. I've tried all different ways. But as soon as I spend money, I go in my app and I log the expense.
Okay.
And in the beginning, it was so annoying. Like, it was so tedious. Like, oh my gosh, this is so much work. But then now it's become the habit, right? That I do every single time. It takes 2 seconds and it's on repeat every single time. And because of that, it's become part of my life, right? And I've seen the fruits of that, because now all of a sudden I have more money. Right? Because if not, money will fly away. And then we look at our accounts and we're like, where did all my money go?
Yeah.
Right? So a place to start, I would suggest, with budgeting is, first, look at the last 3 months just spend an hour, log into your online banking, and just put every dollar that you've spent in categories for the last 3 months. Okay. I've done this exercise, to share a little small story. A few years ago, and this is just to prove to you that this is a repetition, because I teach this stuff, right?
Okay.
But a few years ago, me and my girlfriend were sitting in a coffee shop, and we're just talking about life and finances, and we started just talking about where our money's been going. And she's like, well, why don't we just open up our accounts, the same thing I just told you, and look at the last 3 months. And I added up all my spending for everything, and I noticed, and I'm embarrassed to say, I was spending about $1,200 a month on eating out, restaurants, food.
Yeah.
And because I saw it,
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh,
Mm-hmm.
right? And just shows you that this is not a one-time, you have to do it on a regular basis,
Yes.
right? And then also, maybe if you could, for those that are listening that are in a relationship, that are married, do this with your significant other, right? Because the same thing as generational curses, we don't want money to be a taboo subject in our relationships either,
Absolutely.
right? We want to be able to openly talk about these things, and having those weekly meetings with your significant other, or those monthly or quarterly, and say, hey, let's look at the finances to see if we're still healthy financially, right? And utilize those same budgeting tools. But the last thing I'll say is, you need to, just like Tammy mentioned, just like I mentioned, figure out a way that works for you,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Because what works for me might not work for you,
Mhm.
and vice versa.
I know you mentioned earlier about when you were working at the bank and a lot of people losing their jobs. And we see the numbers in the news, the first wave, second wave, and people losing their jobs. What would you say to the viewers, or what are some of the advice could you give to people during this difficult time, on some of the steps they can make to become financially independent?
I think I would summarize it with two things. Okay. First one, because I know one of the big issues in this current time is income, right? Whether you have a job and you're concerned about the longevity, the future of that career, or you don't have a job because of the COVID, they've shut down, because businesses are going down like all the time now, right?
Yes.
So the first thing I would suggest, whether you're working or not working, is you learn a skill.
Oh.
Okay. I think the one thing or two things that people have realized in this pandemic is, one, how much money they were spending.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because they can't do all the things they used to do.
Exactly.
And two, now they realize that and this is not to say job security is not a real thing, but it's kind of becoming a questionable thing, right? So in order to take ownership over our lives, we need to learn a skill that we can do in order to generate some extra or other cash flow, right? So, I mean, you guys are doing an amazing job with the YouTube channel, and giving people resources to learn things, to understand things, right? But whether it's taking an online course, whether it's going in that thing that that you're good at, that you've just been putting on pause for all these years, maybe going back to it and then seeing how you can monetize it as a way to serve people, but also generate financial stability for yourself too, right? Because we got to increase our cash flow. Now, number two would be to seek out knowledge on the financial area, right? Take ownership of our finances. We have a philosophy that we talk about all the time, which is take control of your finances, or your finances will take control of you. So seeking out the knowledge, there's information out there, there's lots of tools, there's YouTube, there's books, there's classes, there's like, we're in an age where information, we can't say that we don't have access to what we need.
Yes.
Information overload in some instances.
Sometimes.
You don't know which one to take in, right?
Yes. So it's to kind of simplify the process of that information overload, is figuring out what you want to do for yourself, right? And then going down that pathway, versus all the people in your ear saying this is the right way, that's the right way, because their situation is not your situation.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, just seeking other classes and really just learning a skill to really move yourself forward in your finances, to generate some extra cash flow too.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you just touched on something there that I've been hearing more and more frequently, or believing to be true, is that one should always try to look to multiple sources of income.
Mhm.
And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have to work, like you said, traditionally we've been taught, oh, the more jobs you have, the better.
Yes. Yeah.
But try to actually find things that you can do in terms of a business for yourself, right?
A lot of people are scared to start a business,
Mhm.
right? Because it's like you mentioned, it's not part of the norm for them,
No.
right? But just like anything, it can be learned.
Right.
When you going back to the beginning, what we talked about, generational, most entrepreneur kids become entrepreneur adults, right? Because they watch their parents in that type of work. Just like you see people that usually teachers, their kids become teachers, right? Usually nurses, their kids become nurses. So it's just redefining another way of generating income now. And once again, redirecting the family in a different way, right? And it's not scary. It's just new. That's why it's scary.
We know from your bio, we know that you're a licensed mutual fund representative. Did I get that right?
Got that right, yeah.
Okay, good. And that you actually do work in your field. There are classes and services that you offer. So we always try to offer the resources to our viewers. And so we'd want you to talk a little bit about that in terms of what are some of the services that you offer, and for sure, how could people contact you?
So there's two sides to what I do. Okay, so the one side of what we do, as you mentioned, I'm a licensed mutual fund representative. I'm also licensed with insurance as well, insurance license. So what we do on the investment side, TFSAs, RSPs, RESPs. There's so many different types of vehicles that you can use to invest, even things like RDSPs for those that are classified as disabled under the government umbrella. There's government programs that you can get access to that provide, whether it's not, I shouldn't say free money, but there's support, right, for planning for your retirement for those that are disabled. But there's so many different things that you could do on the mutual fund side, just to start building wealth and putting money to work. So we do all those things. On the insurance side, life insurance, critical illness insurance, disability insurance, even some type of investments that are insured and guaranteed. It's for certain types of clients. We partner with a lot of companies within our umbrella that do debt restructuring programs, credit rebuilding programs. Even we do home and auto as a partnership with some companies, and even pet insurance with some partnerships, right?
Okay.
So what we do here, we try to keep everything with one person, dealing with one person, so that they have support and they're not trying to go all over the place and they get confused with the information overload and different opinions.
Yeah.
Right. So I do all those things with my license and some of the partnerships that we have with our company as well. Then on the other side, we sponsor classes. And, we have 5 different classes that we teach. Currently, I'm running them alongside some other instructors twice a week.
Okay.
We have class, if you don't mind, maybe I can go through the list of the classes if you guys want.
Yes, for sure. That would be helpful.
So class 1 is on increasing cash flow, like budgeting.
Okay.
Like you talked about, building your credit score. We talked about that, and just some ways to pay off your debt a lot faster, more strategically. Class number 2 is all insurance. We talk about all the different types of insurance that's available, which one to choose, because there's not a one-size-shoe-fits-all for insurance. How to qualify, what the insurance companies look at you, and how do they decide to go here or go there. And then class number 3 is on investment. So, how to invest, the difference between stocks and bonds and mutual funds and risk tolerance. Class 4, we talk about retirement. And how to save money on vehicles for taxes, but also what government benefits are available, like CPP and old age security, and things like, you might have heard of guaranteed income supplement, which is available as well. So we explain how they work, what is available, the amounts that are available. kids education. We talk about RESPs in that class as well. And then last but not least, class 5, which is on estate planning. It's our estate planning class, right? So we discuss, what it means to move money to the next generation, how you can, if something happens and you don't use everything while you're alive, how you can position it to move it to the next generation in the smoothest process. Funeral planning we do as well. Wills and power of attorneys, all those things we talk about in that class. So they run about an hour and a half. They're open for questions. And actually, I brought this so I could show you guys too. There's a textbook that we provide. It kind of goes along with a lot of the topics. It's done in a very simple, we have young kids that read this book. It's not some high-level financial guru language. It's basic education. And then this book is actually what goes along with the classes. So it's all fill in the blanks, right? You see it's all like fill in the blanks. There's examples. So this is for the 5 classes, there's 5 sections.
Right.
So I always say it's kind of like going to school, financial school for adults.
Okay.
Yeah, so we run them twice a week right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And what's the criteria to sort of get into these classes, Alvin?
The criteria is just to want to, and then we allow you to. That's all.
Okay.
There's no cost to attend the classes.
Okay.
There's no age requirements. Anybody can attend them. As long as you want to learn, we have the classes that we're running to teach. We've done the classes we do them consistently, but sometimes people have asked us to teach their class, like their school, or I know, was it right before the pandemic, we had a class at Sheridan College that we taught 48 students some of the classes, right?
Okay.
Then the pandemic hit and we transferred it to online. So we've gone to churches, we've gone to many different organizations and ran them specifically for a group that they wanted us to teach the classes to. So if people want that, we can also do that too.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, this is all powerful information, I would say, for us to have. And we certainly will put your information in terms of contact information in the description box for when this video is actually released.
Awesome.
We want to personally thank you for taking the time to educate us. Our motto is that we try to inform and educate and advocate for our viewers and just people at large. So I think financial literacy is a very pertinent topic for our community. And it's one that we should really try to get on board with, as we said, in terms of trying to create that legacy for or future generation and building really that generational wealth.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me. Thank you for the invitation to come and share. And I hope that, I brought some value to those that are going to be listening.
Yes, absolutely. I do believe that you did. Thanks so much again, Alvin. All the best in your endeavors. We want to thank you for taking the time with us today.
Appreciate you guys. Keep doing what you guys are doing, making that big impact.
Okay, thank you.
All right, guys. Thanks.
Thanks for watching the show today, Shan and Tam fam.
Ensure you hit the subscribe button, like, and share this video.
Send the link to a friend in WhatsApp, Facebook, or even Instagram, fam. And of course, don't miss when we post a new video, so hit that notifications button.
Yes. Also, check out the details box for this video for all the links for Shan and Tam's social media and blog pages.